I died in a car crash on a Tuesday. I know because I remember the screech of metal, the shattering glass, and the last thought that burned through my mind before everything went black. They killed me together. Then I woke up, not in a hospital, not in heaven or hell. I woke up in my childhood bedroom, sunlight streaming through lace curtains I hadn't seen in 3 years, and my mother's voice calling from downstairs, "Halena, you'll be late for your own wedding." My wedding. My hands, 25 again, unmarred by the burn scar I'd gotten last year, trembled as I touched my face. Smooth, young, alive. The memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. Nathan's voice in our bedroom, breathless and guilty. "Just one more time before the wedding, Lily. She'll never know." My sister's laugh, that crystalline sound I'd mistaken for joy my entire life. "She's so pathetically grateful, Nate. She'd forgive us even if she found out." The dress fitting where Lily wore my designs, and photographers swarmed her instead of me. The gallery opening where Nathan forgot to mention my name. The slow, deliberate erasure of Halena Chen until I was nothing but a shadow bankrolling their ascent. And then, the crash. Nathan's hands on the wheel. Lily's perfume in the passenger seat that should have been mine. The cliff road. The moment I understood, too late, that my death had been convenient. I stood from the bed, legs steady despite the impossibility of it all. The calendar on my vanity read the date I'd spent months looking forward to. Once upon a death. My wedding day. Not anymore. The metamorphosis began in the silence between heartbeats. Pain crystallizing into something harder, colder, infinitely more dangerous. I had been given what they feared most. A second chance with all my memories intact. This time I would not be merciful. The wedding was at the Augustin estate. All white roses and champagne dreams paid for with my inheritance. I could see it clearly now. How Nathan had proposed exactly 3 weeks after my father's funeral, when I was drowning in grief and desperate for someone to hold on to. I stood in the bridal suite, watching my mother fuss with my veil, and felt nothing but crystalline clarity. "You look beautiful, darling," she murmured. "Nathan's so lucky." Lucky. The word tasted like ash. Through the doorway, I could hear Lily's voice, playing the devoted maid of honour. "I'm so happy for you both. True love is so rare." My fingers tightened on the bouquet until thorns bit into my palm. The pain was grounding. Real. I had spent 6 hours last night in this same room in my previous life, crying happy tears, believing in fairy tales. This time, I spent those hours planning. The music swelled. My cue. I walked down the aisle with my father's arm linked through mine. My father, alive again, in this timeline. His heart attack still 2 years away if I could prevent it. And watched Nathan's face. God, he was beautiful. That's what had fooled me before. Sharp jawline, those soulful brown eyes that every camera loved. The way he looked at me like I was his salvation. But I saw the micro-expression now, the one I'd missed before. Relief. Relief that the money was secured. Relief that his ticket to stardom was saying yes. Lily stood beside the altar in the bridesmaid dress I'd designed for her, sky blue silk that complemented her porcelain skin. She caught my eye and smiled. That same smile I now understood had always been a knife. The officiant began. Nathan took my hands, his grip warm and steady and utterly false. "Do you, Halena Chen, take Nathan Pierce?" "No!" The word cut through the chapel like a gunshot. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Nathan's face went white. "Halena, what?" "I don't." My voice was steady, each word a nail in a coffin. "I won't. I refuse." I turned to face the 300 guests. Every society photographer, every influential name Nathan had insisted we invite. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, but I can't marry a man who's been sleeping with my sister." The silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Lily's face drained of colour. Halena, have you lost your mind? That's insane. Room 412 at the Belmont Hotel. Last night, you told him I'd forgive you even if I knew. I smiled, and I knew it didn't reach my eyes. You were wrong. Nathan grabbed my wrist. Listen to me. I jerked away, and my father was suddenly there, solid and protective and furious. Don't touch my daughter. This is a misunderstanding. Lily's voice rose, desperate now. She's been so stressed with the wedding planning. She's imagining... I have the credit card receipts, I said quietly. The hotel charged my card, the one I gave Nathan for emergency production costs. 47 visits over 6 months. I'd found them in my previous life too late, 3 months after the wedding, when I'd been too invested to walk away. But I'd kept the documentation, stored it in my memory like ammunition. This time, I was firing first. Nathan's PR training kicked in. I saw the shift in his micro-expressions, the actor's mask sliding into place. Halena, please, let's talk about this privately. You're embarrassed, I understand, but... I'm not embarrassed. I pulled off the engagement ring. 3 carats, platinum, purchased with my inheritance, and dropped it at his feet. I'm free. I walked back down the aisle alone, my heels clicking against marble, the train of my dress sweeping behind me like a war banner. Behind me, chaos erupted. Lily's protests, Nathan's denials, the frantic clicking of camera phones. I didn't look back. My mother found me in the bridal suite 20 minutes later. I'd already changed into the simple black dress I'd hidden in my luggage. Preparation from a future that would never happen now. Halena, her voice trembled, are you absolutely certain? He was using me for my money and my connections. Lily wanted the life I was building. I met her eyes. I won't be used anymore. She studied my face for a long moment, and I saw the exact second she believed me. Then, let's go home. Not home, I said. I have an appointment. Damien Cross's offer had come 6 months ago at a fashion industry gala. Your designs are extraordinary, he'd said, those steel-grey eyes assessing me with the same precision he used to build his empire. I'm opening a luxury fashion division. I want you as creative director. Full creative control, 40% equity. I'd turned him down because Nathan had pouted about me abandoning him when his career was just taking off because Lily had laughed and said, You're not actually talented enough for that, are you? He's probably just being nice. Because I'd believed I was lucky to be loved, even badly. I found Damien 3 days after the wedding that never was, in a corner cafe in the Arts District. He was reading contract proposals, espresso cooling beside his laptop, looking exactly as I remembered. Sharp-featured, impeccably dressed, radiating the kind of controlled power that made rooms shift around him. I slid into the seat across from him. Is that offer still open? He looked up, recognition flickering across his face. Halena Chen, I heard about your wedding. There was no wedding. I know. Something almost like approval warmed his expression. I was referring to the spectacle. It's trending on 6 platforms. #Runaway Bride is #1 worldwide. I had expected that, counted on it even. Good, let them talk. Is the offer still open? Damien closed his laptop with deliberate precision. Why should I trust you won't abandon the company the moment your actor boyfriend apologizes? He's not my boyfriend, he never was. I was just too stupid to see it. I pulled out my portfolio, the one I'd been secretly developing, the designs I'd never shown anyone because Nathan said they were too avant-garde, and Lily said they were trying too hard. I've spent 3 years making myself smaller to fit into someone else's life. I'm done shrinking. He studied the sketches for 7 minutes in complete silence. When he looked up, something had shifted in his gaze. Full creative control, 45% equity. You start Monday. Why 45? Because you just proved your worth more than I initially thought. He extended his hand. Welcome to Cross Enterprises, Miss Chen. I shook it and felt the future crack open like a door I'd been locked outside of my entire life. Call me Halena, I said, and I'll make you richer than you've ever imagined. His smile was sharp as a blade. I'm counting on it. The first collection dropped 3 months later. I called it Metamorphosis, 12 pieces that told the story of a woman becoming something new, something dangerous, something free. Dark silks that moved like water, structured jackets with hidden armour, dresses that looked delicate until you saw the steel beneath. Vogue called it the most important debut in a decade. Harper's Bazaar wrote, Halena Chen doesn't just design clothes, she designs transformation. The orders flooded in. Celebrities, influencers, women who wanted to feel what I'd felt. The shedding of old skin, the emergence of something fiercer. Damien watched it all with quiet satisfaction, attending every show, every meeting, every crisis. He never hovered, never doubted, never tried to make me smaller. Instead, he made space for me to expand. You're not surprised, I said one night, working late in the design studio while he reviewed acquisition proposals across the room. By your success? No. He didn't look up from his papers. I told you, I knew what you were worth. Nathan didn't. Nathan's a fool. Now he did look up and his gaze was molten steel. And he's paying for it. I'd noticed. Of course I'd noticed. Nathan's callbacks had dried up mysteriously. The 3 films he'd been guaranteed to book had cast other actors. His agent had dropped him. His social media engagement had plummeted after the wedding scandal. The narrative hadn't broken his way. People saw a user, a cheater, a man who'd tried to trap a talented woman into mediocrity. You're blacklisting him, I said. I'm making phone calls. Damien's expression remained neutral, mentioning to certain producers that I'm considering pulling funding from projects that employ actors with questionable character. It's just business advice. That's ruthless. He hurt you, said simply, as if that explained everything. As if my pain was reason enough to dismantle a career. Something warm and terrifying unfurled in my chest. You barely know me. I know enough. He returned to his contracts, but his voice softened fractionally. I know you're brilliant. I know you were deliberately dimmed by people who feared your light. I know that watching you shine now is the best investment I've ever made. Not falling for him would have been impossible. Lily had built her modelling career on my designs. It took me 2 months to prove it. I'd kept every sketch, every prototype, every timestamp from my previous life. In this timeline, I'd photographed everything before Lily could borrow pieces from my studio. When she appeared in a magazine spread wearing a dress suspiciously similar to one from my rejected portfolio, a portfolio she'd had access to, I didn't confront her. I sent the evidence to the fashion press. The scandal broke on a Thursday. Rising model Lily Chen accused of plagiarism. Multiple designs allegedly stolen from sister's portfolio. Fashion industry questions authenticity of Chen's entire career. The evidence was damning. Side-by-side comparisons, timestamps, testimony from my former assistant who confirmed Lily had been in my studio unsupervised dozens of times. Her agency dropped her within 24 hours. Her sponsorships evaporated by the weekend. By Monday, her name was poison in the industry I now dominated. She called me 17 times. I answered on the 18th. Halena, please. Her voice was raw, desperate. You have to tell them it's a misunderstanding, that I had permission, that we collaborated. But we didn't. My voice was calm, detached. You stole from me, wore my work, and took credit for my creativity, just like you stole Nathan. We didn't. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I examined my nails, French-tipped and perfect. And now you're facing consequences. Doesn't that feel familiar? Oh, wait, no. You've never faced consequences before. I'm your sister. You were my sister. The past tense was deliberate, final. You stopped being family the moment you decided I was something to exploit, rather than someone to love. You've changed, she whispered. You're cruel now. No, Lily. I'm just no longer kind to people who hurt me. There's a difference. I hung up before she could respond. Damien was waiting in my office when I arrived, 2 cups of coffee and a satisfied smile. I heard the news. She'll never work in fashion again. Good. He handed me a cup. She doesn't deserve to benefit from your talent. I sipped the coffee, perfect temperature, the exact amount of cream I preferred, because Damien paid attention to details. Nathan called too, left a voicemail about reconciliation and working through this. Let me guess. His career is stalling and he's realised his mistake. He said I'm the love of his life. Damien's jaw tightened fractionally. What did you say? Nothing. I blocked his number. I moved to the window, watching the city sprawl below us. A kingdom I was building, brick by careful brick. He's not the love of my life. He was just the person I thought I should love. And now? The question was quiet, weighted with something unspoken. I turned to face him. This man who'd given me space to become dangerous, who'd weaponized his power on my behalf, who looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his entire life. Now I know the difference. The air between us crystallized, charged with possibility. Halena! Monday's show, I interrupted, because some thresholds required preparation. Will you be there? I'm always there. I know. I smiled, and this time it was real, genuine, the first unguarded expression I'd given anyone since my rebirth. That's why I designed something specifically for you to see. Rebirth premiered on a Friday in September, exactly 1 year after I'd walked away from my own wedding. The collection was a narrative, 12 pieces that told the story of a woman rising from ashes, transforming pain into power, wearing her scars like armour. The finale piece was a wedding dress, black silk, gold embroidery that looked like flames, a train that swept the floor like wings. I wore it myself, walking the runway as my own model. The industry lost its collective mind. Halena Chen reclaims the wedding dress and her power. Fashion's revenge queen crowns herself. Cross Enterprises, fashion division valued at $2 billion. Nathan and Lily's wedding had happened 2 months prior. A small, desperate ceremony with none of the glamour mine would have had. The photos had circulated online briefly before becoming exactly what I'd planned. Punchlines. Actor Nathan Pierce marries model after scandal. Lily Chen wears discount dress to budget wedding. Former power couples fall from grace complete. They'd tried to rebuild. Nathan took B-list roles in straight-to-streaming films. Lily attempted influencer marketing for minor brands. But the stain of their betrayal, amplified by my meteoric rise, had marked them permanently. They were footnotes in my legend. The after-party was held in Cross Tower's penthouse, my penthouse now, the one Damien had insisted I accept as part of my compensation package. The city glittered below us, a canvas of lights and infinite possibility. You've done it, Damien said, finding me on the balcony, away from the celebration. Everything you planned. Complete victory. Almost everything. I took the champagne he offered, our fingers brushing in the exchange. What's missing? I turned to face him fully. In my previous life, I died believing no one saw me. Not my real self, not the woman I was capable of becoming. And now I know someone did. I set down the champagne, suddenly needing both hands free for this. You saw me when I was still half-formed. You bet on me when I was still learning to bet on myself. You didn't just offer me a business opportunity, Damien. You offered me a mirror that showed me who I could be. His expression shifted, something raw and vulnerable breaking through his carefully controlled exterior. Halena, I'm not finished. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice stayed steady. I've spent this entire year becoming someone worthy of the second chance I was given. Building an empire, destroying my enemies, reclaiming everything that was taken from me. But there's one thing I haven't done. What's that? I stepped closer, closing the distance between us until I could feel his breath ghost across my skin. I haven't let myself want something just because I want it. Not because it's strategic, not because it serves my revenge, just because it makes me happy. And his voice had gone rough, barely controlled. And you make me happy. The confession felt like flying, like the moment before a crash, like every risk I'd ever taken compressed into 3 words. Terrifyingly, impossibly happy. He kissed me, not tentatively, not like I was fragile. He kissed me like I was the empire he wanted to build his life around, like I was the answer to every question that mattered, like he'd been waiting for permission to show me exactly how he had felt since the moment I'd walked into that cafe and demanded the life I deserved. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. I have loved you since the first collection, he murmured, since you looked at me during the standing ovation and smiled like you'd just discovered you had wings. I have loved you through every triumph, every late night, every moment you became more of who you were always meant to be. That's a lot of love for a business partner. You stopped being just a business partner around month 2. His thumb traced my jawline with devastating gentleness. You became the reason I started believing in destiny. I laughed, bright and genuine and free. That's very romantic for a ruthless CEO. You bring out my romantic side. He pulled me closer and I went willingly, fitting against him like a piece sliding into place. Among other things. Below us, the party continued. My party, my success, my empire built from the ashes of betrayal and death and a second chance I'd seized with both hands. But up here, in this moment, I wasn't Halena Chen, the fashion mogul, or the revenge queen, or the woman who'd walked away from her own wedding. I was just Halena, letting herself be loved by someone who'd never needed her to be anything other than exactly who she was. Lily came to my office on a Tuesday. Security called first. I'd left instructions she was never to be allowed up without my explicit permission. But something in me, some final thread of who I'd been, wanted to see this through to the end. Send her up, I told them. Alone. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner. Worn in a way that had nothing to do with age, and everything to do with consequences finally catching up. Her clothes were off-brand, cheap. Her hair needed professional attention. Her eyes, those eyes that had sparkled with malicious joy while she betrayed me, were red-rimmed and desperate. Halena! She stopped in the doorway of my corner office, taking in the view, the design table, the framed Vogue cover featuring me in the black wedding dress. Please, I need to talk to you. You have 5 minutes. She flinched at the coldness in my voice. Good. She should. I'm sorry. The words came out in a rush. I'm so sorry. I was jealous and stupid and I didn't understand what I was doing. You understood perfectly. And I've lost everything. Nathan left me for some Instagram model. I can't get work. Mum and Dad won't talk to me. Everyone in the industry hates me because of the plagiarism thing. The plagiarism thing. I repeated the words with surgical precision. You mean the plagiarism you committed, the theft you perpetrated against your own sister. It wasn't theft. You would have given me those designs if I'd asked. But you didn't ask. I stood moving around my desk with deliberate calm. You took them. You wore them. You smiled at me while building your career on my stolen work, just like you smiled while sleeping with my fiancé. I made mistakes. You made choices. I stopped 3 feet away from her, close enough to see the moment my words landed. Calculated, deliberate choices to use me as a stepping stone to the life you wanted. And when I died, yes, Lily, I know about the crash. I know you and Nathan planned it together. You would have inherited everything. My money, my designs, my entire legacy. You would have worn my life like one of those dresses you stole. Her face went white. How do you... No, does it matter? I smiled, and I knew it was the same expression she'd given me 1,000 times. Cold, triumphant, untouchable. What matters is that you're here begging, that karma found you, that everything you built on my pain has crumbled while I've risen higher than you ever imagined possible. Please. Tears streaked her makeup. Drugstore foundation, I noted clinically. I have nothing. I'm living in a studio apartment. I can't pay my bills. Mum won't help me anymore. I just need... What? I cocked my head. Money? A job? Forgiveness? Hope flickered in her eyes. Any of it. All of it. I'm your sister, Halena. Family means loyalty, trust, love. I stepped closer, and she involuntarily stepped back. Family means showing up for each other, not stealing from each other. You taught me that, actually. You taught me that blood means nothing when it's used as a weapon. I can change. Maybe you can. Maybe you'll become a better person through suffering the way I became a better person through resurrection. I moved past her toward the door, opening it with deliberate finality. But that's not my concern anymore. Your redemption, if it happens, will happen without me. Halena, please. Goodbye, Lily. I held her gaze as she stood in my doorway, this woman who'd once been my sister, who'd once been someone I'd loved more than reason. I hope your life becomes exactly what you deserve. She left sobbing, shoulders shaking, broken in a way that should have moved me and didn't. I closed the door with the same smile she'd once given me, the one that said, I win and you lose and there's nothing you can do about it. Damien was waiting in my office when I turned around. He'd come in through the connecting door between our spaces, a door that had been metaphorical until 3 months ago and literal since. How do you feel? He asked quietly. I considered the question seriously. Searched for guilt, for regret, for any trace of the soft, forgiving Halena who'd existed before death and rebirth. Found nothing but clear, clean satisfaction. Free, I said finally. I feel free. He crossed the room and pulled me into his arms, and I sank into the embrace with profound relief. You are free. You've earned it. We both have. I tilted my head back to look at him. The Paris expansion is approved. The board voted unanimously. Because you're brilliant. Because we're brilliant, I corrected. You taught me that revenge is a dish best served with profitability. He laughed. Rich and genuine and mine. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. Wait until you hear my vows. He went very still. Vows? I pulled the small box from my pocket. Platinum band with a single black diamond. Custom designed by me, purchased with money I'd earned through my own talent and work. I walked away from one wedding because it would have made me small, I said. I'd like to walk toward a different one that makes me bigger, stronger, more of who I'm meant to be. I opened the box. Damien Cross, will you marry me? His smile was brilliant, transformative, absolutely devastating. Are you going to design your own dress? Obviously. Will it be black? Probably. Will you let me see it before the wedding? Absolutely not. He took the ring, slid it onto his finger, and kissed me like I'd just handed him the world. Maybe I had. Yes, he whispered against my lips. To everything. Always yes. Epilogue. 5 years later, Forbes ran a feature called The Rise of Halena Cross. The article documented everything. The walked-away wedding that became viral legend, the fascist Scion empire built from ash and ambition, the CEO husband who worshipped at the altar of my talent, the sister and ex-fiancé who'd faded into cautionary tale obscurity. They called me the revenge queen of fashion. They called my story the greatest comeback in modern industry. They called my designs transformative, powerful, essential. They didn't know the truth, that I had died and been reborn, that I'd been given the rarest gift, the chance to do it all again with wisdom earned through tragedy. But it didn't matter what they knew. What mattered was the empire, the love, the power I'd claimed and shaped and wielded with precision and purpose. What mattered was the woman in the mirror, sharp-eyed, unbreakable, exactly who she'd always been meant to be. I stood in my design studio, sketching the spring collection, Damien's ring heavy and perfect on my finger, our daughter sleeping in the next room, and felt the weight of satisfaction settle into my bones. They'd tried to erase me. Instead, I'd become legend, and when I closed my eyes, I could still feel that moment. Standing at the altar, saying no, walking away from the life that would have destroyed me. The best decision I'd ever made. The beginning of everything. Pain became power. Betrayal became empire. Death became rebirth. And in the end, I won everything.